typically when I do an interview, the team, the rep, asks me to send questions in advance. And you did it because you don't live a risk-averse life. We both grew up in the New York area. Our parents are accountants, and I was raised with a very risk-averse mindset. I don't think you were, but I'll let you speak.
No, I was raised with that, but I didn't adopt it. I think, you go the same way as your parents do in terms of your belief systems, or the exact opposite way. I went the exact opposite way. So my parents were risk-averse. I embraced risk.
So I mentioned this phrase, a life rich with incident. That's how I described an interviewee recently. But that person's life has nothing on yours. Did you ever imagine that your life would pose such extremes, that you would embrace them?
I wouldn't say that. Like, even while it was happening and even afterwards in the beginning, I didn't think it was that insane. Like, it's your life and it's one step at a time. And I think you become desensitized to things along the way. So what would have seemed insane if you just done it all at once, when there's these little incremental steps, it doesn't seem crazy. So like when I first started writing my book, or when I first started telling my story to someone, I was in jail and my bunkmate was Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong. And I would tell him my stories. He'd be like, what? Like, you have the craziest life. I'm like, really? He goes, I'm Tommy Chong. I think you had an insane life. So, to me, it didn't seem that insane. Of course, in retrospect, when I started writing it down and look back at it, it was a wild life. And, but I think, for me, again, I always try to be the best at whatever I do. And even if I'm doing a bad thing, unfortunately, I'm going to be doing the best bad things as well.
If we want to talk about extremes, I want to know, was it day 1, day 2, day 10 that you told Tommy Chong about, I can't describe it as a yachting accident, the yachting catastrophe off of the coast of Italy?
I think it was like day 2, probably. Yeah, I think it was day 2. Maybe it was day 1. It was certainly the first couple of days.
When that was happening, you must have been thinking, I'm living a very cinematic life, to say the least.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of happy it was happening. I was like, oh man, this is like an albatross around my neck, this thing, I hated that. I was all sick of the boat and I felt obligated to go on it. When I started sinking, I'm like, oh, this is great. Lloyd's of London, I never really thought I was going to die. There was a couple of moments where I was very nervous, but, and then the plane crashed picking me up, actually. It was a G2B, that got seagulls flew in the engine. So yeah, I was traveled badly, I guess,
That plane was supposed to rescue you, as it was depicted in the movie. I don't know if it happened like that, but
no. It wasn't. It happened a week later. So I was supposed to come pick me up and bring me home. So yeah, it was a week later.
Was it as scary as it seemed? It was like full-on Poseidon adventure in the film.
It was much worse. It was much worse than that because it lasted for like 18 hours. So it was a very long, drawn-out affair. And there were a lot of times we thought we'd have to go into life rafts. It was pretty intense. Yeah.
I guess we should talk about the helicopter crash, too, before we talk about the pleasures of aviation.
Yeah, well, the helicopter, we actually pushed the helicopter over the side of the boat to make room for the Italian Navy SEALs to rescue us. But I also crash landed my helicopter many times in my backyard. I was, when you're young, you think you're invincible, I don't think I'm invincible anymore.
In a very sober frame of mind, it was more than once that you crashed your helicopter in your backyard.
Yeah, more than once. Yeah.
Yeah. How does private aviation figure into your life now? How often are you flying privately?
I fly private very often, whenever I can. And unfortunately, the price in flying private, it's gone up tremendously in the last couple of years. It's really rocketed up, and I'm considering buying a plane because it's become like almost, it's getting close to the point where it's not, I wouldn't say prohibitive, it's just that it used to be much more economical. So, of course, you go coast to coast in a Citation 10 or even a G4, which costs you $23,000 to $28,000 one way, and now it's twice that. It's really changed. Well, not twice that, but let's just say 50% higher at least.
I've heard you say that before in interviews about the expense, and that's the first thing that would surprise a lot of people, that you're ever worried about expense at this point.
No, I am. I mean, I am, again, because I fly for business. So it's one thing if I'm going on a vacation with my family, that's different, but if I'm flying for business, especially if I'm on a tour, it has to make sense for the tour to, if I'm going up, let's say I have to go to let's say I get booked at a speech in California and they're paying me $150,000 to give a speech, right? And I got a travel budget of $10,000. I'm like, do I want to eat in, round trip's going to cost me $75,000 maybe, right? Do you want to, the question is, what do you want to eat, eat into the money that you would have been paid just to be there. So, and, sometimes I'll subsidize it myself and sometimes I'll just demand the higher travel reimbursement. And sometimes if I think it's ridiculous, I'll fly commercial, you know what I'm saying? But whenever I can, I like to fly private.
These are your two main sources of income right now: the books, which enhance the tours, the speaking engagements, and the speaking engagements that enhance the sales of the books.
No, mostly my biggest sources of are from consulting for companies. That's my biggest source of income. Yeah, by far. Touring is great and everything, but yeah.
How many days during the year do you think you're giving a motivational speech?
I would say maybe like probably 50 times a year.
Among your audience members, how much of the interest is the starstruck factor, and how much is it that people really want financial advice or other kinds of life goals advice?
I think mostly it's the latter. It's mostly advice they want. I think that certainly the brand and the movie helps people find out about me. When they're going to go buy a ticket to an event and pay their money, they're not just there to, I guess some people want to hear funny stories, which is, like that's some people, but I think far and away the vast majority are looking for advice in terms of sales or financial advice or entrepreneurship advice, motivation. So I think that's the vast majority.
So Leonardo DiCaprio and Warner's won the bidding war for your property to tell your story. Were there other actors in the mix who could have played you?
Yeah, Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was also in the bidding, and as was Mark Wahlberg too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How well did you get to know Leonardo DiCaprio? I mean, in terms of teaching him how to be you.
Very well. We spent about a year together, a lot of time. And some of it was just social. Some of it was preparing certain scenes of the movie and going through the script and ironing out certain things that were inconsistencies. We thought that could be made better, but we spent a lot of time together. Leo was very diligent. He's talented naturally, but he prepares and doesn't leave anything up to chance.
A lot of people may feel that the events were exaggerated, but I read, and you can confirm or deny, that Random House actually had you pull back. It was not exaggerated.
It was under-exaggerated. I mean, there were some scenes that were fictionalized because, to serve the narrative and stuff, but most of that was really about collapsing characters. Like, so maybe one character took on the traits of three people, or events were made closer together. Like you said, with the plane crashing, it was a week later. They did it just, for cinematic effect.
Now, there's this famous scene, it's iconic, and Leo was so brilliant, of trying to drag himself from the house, across the driveway, down the stairs, into this vehicle.
Yeah.
Was that exaggerated?
That's true. 100% true. No, 100. The only change is that it wasn't a Lamborghini, it was a Mercedes, but everything else in that scene is 100% true.
And how did you teach him to be an amazing salesman?
That was easy because he's naturally talented. So I just taught him the straight line system. That's what I teach people around the world. So I taught him basic tonalities. I wrote a script that was perfect for the scene. And I just, taught him how to read through the script and the sort of tricks of the trade of being a salesperson. He took to it very, very quickly.
See those little black boxes? They're called telephones. I'm going to let you on a little secret about these telephones. They're not going to dial themselves, okay? Without you, they're just worthless hunks of plastic, like a loaded M16 without a trained Marine to pull the trigger.
Was the first time you saw a rough cut, did you have this sense of, I can't believe that my life is up on the screen?
I was blown away. I was like, oh my God. And the first time I saw it, I was out of breath afterwards. I was like, You know, to this day, when I see the movie, it's a big movie. I mean, it's really so well done. And, you know, Scorsese is Scorsese for a reason.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Scorsese. What were your interactions with him like?
He's amazing. I mean, I interacted with Leo far more. But, you know, when I was on the set, I met Scorsese, and he's, you know, everyone just, you know, has tremendous respect for him. He's a genius. And he has a way of, you know, I think Marty's gift is he has a way of putting up characters on a screen, and without trying to moralize, he just puts characters up on a screen, doesn't tell you if you should love them or hate them. He lets you come to your own conclusion. While some directors or some movies, like they almost telegraph you too much of how they want you to feel. And I don't like being spoon-fed morality, or I should like this person, hate this person. You know, you could root for people who are doing things wrong. You could hate people who are doing things right, and vice versa. Life is very nuanced. And I think Scorsese's gift is his ability to put characters on the screen and let people just draw their own conclusions. And I think people love that about his movies.
On that note, I read, I think it was in Bloomberg, that it hurts you, or you don't want to be known, identified as a criminal. Do you ever think about how your obituary is going to read? What's the first line?
It's the greatest redemption story ever.
Are you redeemed?
That's not for me to say.
In your efforts toward redemption, what does it take the form of? The restitution is a part of it. Living a clean and sober life.
No. That's it's really just how I go about, you know, living every day, you know, going out there and giving massive value to people and earning money from that, but making sure that you give more than you get. And you want everyone whose lives you touch to somehow be improved. And that's really how I live my life today. And it's a great way to live.
How do you motivate people during your speaking engagements? What are the kinds of things that people respond to most?
It's really about, you know, giving people a message when you want to alert them to say, listen, these are the things that are important. These are some of the belief systems that you might have that are really holding you back. The way your state of mind is. There are certain states of mind that lead people to succeed, others that lead them to failure. So it's like really highlighting the elements of success versus like not just saying something, you know, work hard, rah, rah, really giving them strategy of like, hey, these are the elements that you need to line up in your life. And if you line these up both in the inner world of success and the outer world together, you have to reconcile both worlds, strategy, the outer world, with mindset, the inner world. When you do those things together, the results can be astounding. So it's really about a balanced message for reconciling both worlds of success.
What bases are you using to fly privately these days? Opelika, Executive Airport in Fort Lauderdale?
Opelika.
Okay. And this is your home base, Miami, or do you still have a home base in New York as well?
No, Miami is my home base.
Okay.
Miami's my home base. It's great.
What do you want people to get out of your new book? And it's really just a couple months old, right?
Yeah. So I think my new book answers the question of what do you do with your hard-earned money after, you make money, then you have to spend a certain amount of money to live, and then you have savings, right? And hopefully, especially in this market, those savings are pretty large. Well, so many people deploy their capital in a way that's self-defeating. They, have it managed by people that charge them massive fees and are engaging in a lot of trading, which is tax inefficient. And it's really simple to take, especially in this market, to build a massive, multi-million dollar, $10 million plus nest egg just by investing in index funds and balancing a portfolio and keeping your expenses low and playing the long game. And that's what this book is really all about. It shows you how to do it in a way that minimizes your tax burden, maximizes your returns, and also expose you to the power of long-term compounding. It's very powerful. And the book is funny. It's written in a way that's very funny for people to, it's informative, but it's also a page turner. So you get a lot of great information in there, but you have fun reading it. And I think every person in this tax bracket should read it for sure.
How do you prepare yourself mentally, physically, and in every other way for prison? And what was that like? What was the first day like?
You can't prepare yourself, but you go in and you make the best of it. You take a deep breath, and it's not nearly as bad as you think it is. And in my case, it was far worse waiting to go. That was the worst part, the waiting to go, than actually arriving. Once you arrive, it's just counting it down, and it is what it is. So it wasn't very difficult, but the worst part is beforehand.
Once you were there, were there any moments where you were surprised how normal it was and how normal the other people were and how normal your conversations were? Or did you ever feel threatened?
No, never. But it was, Tommy Chong was my bunkmate, so it was very normal for me.
And in terms of exercise, food, your daily activities?
Yeah, I had an easy, tennis, weightlifting, taught myself to write. That was the most important thing I did, though. Spent about 10 hours a day teaching myself to write.
By looking at the works of other great writers? Who were some of your favorite?
Yeah, exactly.
Writers?
Yeah. So it was Tom Wolfe, especially. I read Bonfire of the Vanities, used it like a textbook, and that really was an inspiration and taught me how to write. By I used a highlighter to underline certain things in the book, unpack his strategy, and I developed my own. But it was based on Tom Wolfe, and it also, it gave me a sort of a purpose when I was there, something that I didn't waste my time. So I think that was the most important thing.
What's a perfect day for you?
Getting up, working out, doing my cold plunge, spending some time with my family, working on some of the projects I'm working on, and then eating some good food.
Let's end with what's the biggest misconception that you'd like to clear up?
It's probably that all this happened in 2013 when the movie, right before the movie came out. I mean, this stuff happened 30 years. It's like it happened in 1988 to 1994. So do the math. It's over 30 years ago, right? So, I think that when people look at me, they'll say, "Oh my God, it should have just happened." And the movie's so current still, so people think it's very new when it's actually really, really old stuff. But it ages well, and people love the movie. So, and I appreciate it. I'm very lucky and fortunate that it became a cult hit, and I think the movie will stay relevant for many, many years to come.